Hey guys, so this is a video of me making tamales. I actually did this like a week and a half before Christmas, and I'm just getting around to doing the voiceover on it. It was a really long video, so I had to cut out all of my verbal explanations and everything, and I just did basically time lapse for the whole thing. This is not a how-to. This is me doing or me making tamales for the very first time. It had been on my to-do list for a while. I'd always wanted to try to do these. So here I am I'm just cutting up a pork shoulder roast, cutting the fat off of it, and then I'm going to cut it into chunks and put it in the pan with some water, some peppercorns, some garlic to boil. I think it was on the stove for five and a half hours or so. This particular recipe that I am using, I got from Virtual Cooking with Laura, and I'm going to link her channel below. She is the recipe that I used to do this, so I will go ahead and link hers in the description box. I do hope that everybody had a wonderful Christmas and holiday. I know not everybody celebrates Christmas, but whatever you celebrate, or even if you didn't celebrate any holiday, I hope you had a wonderful winter break. My kids are back in school, and hubby is back at work, and so we're just trying to get things done. I've been crafting a lot lately and working our budget, trying to get back on track. So I nearly forgot to mention that I did do this in 2 days. So now I am cooking the meat for the tamales, but this is actually the night before. You can see that I'm cooking at 6 p.m. And so I'm going ahead and putting the meat on the stove. That way they can cook and everything can be cooled for the next day to tear it apart and shred. But I also had to cook supper, so I am making shrimp fettuccine alfredo. So that's why you see me boiling some noodles. It's been so long since I filmed this that I almost forgot. This is shrimp that I bought at our local Kroger, and I'm cooking it in my cast iron. This was pre-marinated shrimp, and I could smell it through the wrapper. It smelled so good, which is why I bought it. If I hadn't been hungry shopping for groceries, you just saw my dog got a little bit of a lick off of my cutting board. I didn't notice that at the time, but here we are a month later, so oh well. So I'm going ahead and cooking my shrimp in some butter and oil, and just until it turns pink, and then I take it out and I go ahead and make my Alfredo sauce. I do a basic Alfredo sauce with salted butter, whipping cream, and sometimes I'll add some of that garlic, that minced garlic there, or if I don't have it, or if I'm just lazy, I will even use a little bit of garlic powder. And then I also use a little bit of salt, not too much, because like I said, I use salted butter, and then some fresh ground pepper. And then you saw me earlier, I did saute some mushrooms to go ahead and add in my Alfredo sauce as well. And then I just add fresh Parmesan cheese. And I just like let it simmer until it gets thick enough, and then I take it off of the heat. And Alfredo, I like to mix with my pasta versus, just putting it over. I'm not sure if that's like a normal thing to do, but I like to mix it. And here is our dinner for that night. You can see the shrimp, the mushrooms. I sprinkled a little extra Parmesan cheese on top. The kids loved it, and it was great. This is the meat after it's done. You can see that it's very fork tender. I'm gonna go ahead and pull all of the meat out, and then I'm gonna leave my veggies and garlic in there and strain it. Strain the peppercorns. The peppercorns get real soft also. And I'm just putting the meat in a bowl to cool before I shred it. The broth will be strained, and you will actually use this broth to put in the masa mixture. Now over here on my island, I am just going to start de-seeding my ancho and guajillo chilies. I'm sure I butchered that name, so I apologize. But just two different kinds of dried chilies, and these are not hot peppers, so that's why I'm not wearing gloves. And I just use my kitchen shears, and I just tear them apart. Some of them are like real dry so that they opened easily, but then others were kind of, you can see the ones that I'm using right now, I think those are the anchos. That might be wrong. One of them, the dark peppers they had a lot of like natural sugars, and they wanted to stick together. They were a lot harder to get the seeds out and get them apart, because the pepper inside, like as it shriveled up, it kind of stuck to itself. So those were a little bit more difficult than these red ones here, but all in all, it was fine. After I deseeded and deveined them, I am just cutting them up into smaller pieces, and then you're going to see me add water to this pan, and they're going to go on the pan and simmer for a little bit and let the chilies rehydrate. So you will see that right here. And I'm adding salt as well. Here they are rehydrated. You can see that there's still some liquid in there, which we want to reserve because we're going to be putting everything in the processor. What you didn't see, I ended up having to blend this again because I forgot to add onions. You're supposed to add a whole onion and several garlic cloves, and I forgot to do that here. So I had to blend it again with those things. Here I'm just going to use my mesh strainer as a sieve, and we want to get all of the skins out of our chili sauce that we just blended and processed. So I'm going to pour the sauce in there, and then I'm using this this silicone spatula to kind of move it around in there, and it's going to allow all of the fine processed liquid to go through the mesh strainer, but it's going to keep the thicker and bigger pieces of the skin that we don't want in our sauce because we want a smooth sauce. So this worked out really well. I did have to do it in batches because it's a small mesh strainer. You can see I just dumped it over and dumped the skins in the thing. So rookie mistake, but you can see that's all the skin. I don't think I've ever used so many dishes for a recipe before. I dirtied so many dishes this day. But you see me, I got that big silver pan and I added some vegetable oil in it. And then I just added all of our sieved chili sauce. And it's supposed to simmer on the stove for a little while. And you can see in the other pan, I have my corn husk soaking in warm water. I shut the stove is actually not on here. I had it on until the water got hot. And then I'm just using that glass measuring Pyrex cup there to weigh the corn husks down so that they stay in the water. It just makes them pliable, so whenever you're making your tamales and putting them together, that it will fold easily and they don't rip and everything. So Okay, so I've added all of the shredded meat to the stove to reheat. I think I'm adding curry powder here, and then I'm going to add some of our chili sauce. Not all of it, because we want to reserve some of it to add in. Now, you don't have to. Laura says that that's not necessarily a traditional way to make tamales, but it's the way that she does it, and her family has always done it. She puts the chili mixture not only in her meat, but she puts a little bit in her masa because she said she likes the added flavor and then the added color as well. So I just did what she did. Okay, now a funny thing, I'm washing this because it's brand new from the hardware store, is I just bought this like cheap 85-cent plastic spackling knife. She used a handy dandy tool that she had got from Amazon, but whenever I went to go look, it was like 15 bucks or something. And so I was like, you know what? I bet a spackling tool would work the same way. So that's what I got to try, and you're going to see that I was very pleased with it. I think that I did try it with one of those offset spatulas as well that you would use to ice a cake, but this worked so much better, and was able to let me move faster and work a little bit faster getting the tamales put together. This is my dry masa mix, and so I'm just following her recipe again. I actually have it, you can't see it, but I actually have it pulled up on my laptop there, and I'm just watching her on video as she does it to make sure I'm not missing anything. So I actually used vegetable lard that I had melted in the microwave. So I added a little bit of the chili sauce, vegetable lard, and then I am alternating between vegetable lard and my pork broth from boiling our meat. And that's kind of out of frame, but that's what I'm adding in that other bowl over there. And it's chilled, it's cold, so it's not hurting my hands or anything. And I'm just mixing. She says you're supposed to be able to ball it up and put it in a glass of water, and it's supposed to float. If it sinks, then you don't have enough fat added. So I did that little test several times and had to keep adding fat. This was the funnest part for me, like actually being able to assemble and make the tamales. Using this little spackling tool was so easy. You can see that I just scooped some out and put it on my counter and took my soaked corn husks, and she said you don't want too thick of a layer, but you also don't want it too thin, because then it will fall apart when you take the husks off after you steam them. I'm not sure at the end if I show you how I served the tamales or not, but we ate on these for several days, and I even packaged some up and gave them to family members because there was just so many that we couldn't eat them all. You can see I'm working kind of fast here. I was able to, that spackling knife really made it. If I had used the offset spatula, it would have taken me so much longer. And then I'm adding the meat and folding it. The meat mixture I could just eat with a fork. It was so good. I will probably add more salt next time. I was so worried about adding too much that I don't think I added enough. I do not have a big steamer pot, and so I made do. I used my canning pot, and then I just used a colander, my metal colander, and just kind of, you'll see me stack them around in there. But I wanted to let you know, like, I know I said that this is my first time making them, but it was also my first time, like, eating homemade tamales. And I know that there's so many different ways to make them, and there's also a lot of different ways to eat them. But I want to know in the comments below, what is your favorite way to eat tamales? Do you put toppings on them? I know that I liked to add sour cream on mine. And that's how I ate them with a fork, and I just paired it with some Mexican rice. So what's your tradition in your family? Let me know in the comments below. And after they are done steaming, you can put them in a container and put them in your fridge to just pull out whenever you want. Here is the final product. You can see I used some salsa and some sour cream and just paired with that Mexican rice. And we really liked them. But like I said, I would love to know what other toppings that I can use if I do decide to make this again. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up and don't forget to leave me a comment. Bye.